Pokemon spin-offs. We've got loads of them across many different genres. We've got roguelikes, pinball, puzzlers, photography, just about anything you could think of, really. Well, almost anything. See, today we want to talk about the different spin-off concepts that haven't made their way to the franchise yet. Whether it be entire genres that haven't shown up, or just different takes on genres that have already been touched on before.
There's an obscene amount of different genres for video games out there, and Pokemon hasn't exactly been a stranger to plenty of them, as you just went over. Now, while some genres have definitely been thrown to the wayside over the years like pinball, there's definitely so much that's been untapped that there's reason to believe that the franchise might dip their toes in them. I mean, us Pokemon fans have had it pretty good. At least we're not dealing with Konami here, where the best we can hope for is we see our series getting a new pachinko machine. I'm honestly not too surprised to see that there is a lot of spin-off games that we get now that tend to be just puzzle games and whatnot, since those are what are popular on mobile devices. But it's not like they stay completely away from the genres they've already established themselves in, like Mystery Dungeon and whatnot.
Honestly, mobile gaming becoming so large is probably one of the main reasons we haven't seen as much diversification in the spin-offs over the last handful of years, but new Pokemon Snap seem to sell pretty well, and that Detective Pikachu sequel is coming out sometime in the future, so there may be some hope left for more interesting spin-off concepts to come to fruition. So, how about we get started then?
Yes! Welcome to Special Edition version spin-offs exclusive! I absolutely nailed that intro, so let's go! Anyway, I have an idea for a spin-off game right here. How about something like Wii Sports, but with Pokemon? Ah, yeah. You know, you already have all these different sports to play. You got golf, bowling, volleyball, tennis, maybe even some baseball. But it's with a Pokemon twist. You can bowl over some pins painted to look like an Alolan Executor, while you use bowling balls fashioned after Pokemon like Koffing and Voltorb. Now, does that not sound fun? You could even use some of the most jacked Pokemon to hit a baseball out of the park, or simply mess around and hit the greens for some good golfing times with your pal Pikachu. I could definitely see a sports minigame type of joint with a Pokemon skin being super popular with the people.
With Wii Sports being one of the best-selling video games of all time, I don't really get how one of the best-selling franchises of all time didn't capitalize on that concept as well. Which segues perfectly into the next style of game we'd like to talk about. How on earth has there not been a Pokemon clone of Animal Crossing? Of course Nintendo couldn't have foreseen New Horizons being the massive success that it was, but Animal Crossing still sold very well even before that. The core concept of building a cute little village, cycling through villagers that you love or even hate, and just chilling is so good. So again, with a franchise that has hundreds of beloved creatures to pick from, how has this not been made yet? I mean, even a Pokemon-themed expansion pack for New Horizons I think could suffice if it was substantial enough to replace all of the villager options from the base game, but at that point you might as well just go all out and give people the relaxing Pokemon life sim that they deserve. Think of it this way, Hey You Pikachu walked, so a game like this could maybe one day run.
Speaking of a game walking so one could run, Pokken obviously is a pretty popular fighting game and saw some nice treatment over the years being ported to the Switch and all. However, there are currently no plans for a new one as far as we know, but if there was, what if they went with a 2D fighter? Imagine something like a Street Fighter or a Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but with Pokemon. There could be some beautiful 2D sprites, fun super moves, everything like that. I want to see some random Lucario leaping around and fighting a Bulbasaur that keeps guard canceling and then popping off with its level 3 super, or something like that. Obviously, fighting games are still super popular, and with a nice coat of Pokepaint, a game like that would probably be pretty popular at an event like EVO.
And with a roster as big as Pokemon's, you could add new fighters consistently for years on end, no problem at all. With Pokemon no longer having Pokken at the World Championships anymore, perhaps this is a precursor to a sequel coming out in the near future, or something new altogether. I guess we'll just have to see if the Pokemon Company does anything like this, though. As for me, I have a pipe dream wish that I feel could do very, very well. One of my favorite games to come out on the Nintendo Switch is Octopath Traveler. Its unique art style is truly what won me over, and Square Enix has really been pushing it a lot with games like Triangle Strategy, the Live Alive and Dragon Quest III remakes, and even Octopath getting a sequel with many of the original's criticisms seemingly being addressed. So that's all fine and dandy, but how about a Pokemon game made like this? Many fans have been begging for a sprite-based game again, as they're not the biggest admirers of the 3D look. So I say, give them what they want. Not saying this game inherently has to be main series, but clearly the Pokemon Company and Game Freak are feeling a little bit more okay with other companies tackling a Pokemon RPG, and I think Square Enix can certainly be trusted with this. The beautiful HD 2D combined with a completely story-focused adventure would really just do it for me. You could even have multiple trainer paths, each having their own team, allowing the player to really get the most out of what's offered in the game. I'm not sure if we'll ever see a game like this come to fruition, but I think there are many people that would want it, especially if they put it out during an off year.
Oh, you were most certainly passionate about that idea, Collector. I could see a game like that becoming a cult favorite among fans, perhaps in the same way that the GameCube RPGs are seen. How about this, though? A Pokemon game that is just a trivia game. We're talking thousands, billions, maybe just thousands of facts to work with from the video games and the anime, presented in a Jackbox party pack sort of way, where not only do you answer potential trivia questions, but also just do some weird Mad Libs, all of them Pokemon related. I think as a party game, that would be insanely successful. It's something you could play on stream with people or even with your friends in your living room. The endless supply of Pokemon trivia out there lends itself to a Jeopardy-style game, while just in general, the franchise has so much you can play around with to make wacky jokes and stories. I think, as a party game, this could become an all-time classic for Nintendo fans.
I mean, it really feels like any party-style game with Pokemon slapped on it could do very well, so I'm really picking up what you're laying down there. You know what else I'd like to pick up? A Pokemon 3D platformer. The 3D platformer is easily my favorite video game genre of all time, with the likes of Banjo-Kazooie, Super Mario Odyssey, and the Spyro Reignited trilogy being among some of my absolute favorites. Now, I know a lot of these games work so well because the characters and their powers were made with the genre in mind, but I really don't think it'd be that hard to adapt with a Pokemon twist to it. Naturally, a protagonist like Pikachu would have a great arsenal of abilities that could instantly squeeze it into the game genre. The double jump that it has in Smash, Electro Web, Volt Tackle, and Thunder for traversing the world, as well as debilitating enemies. Heck, if you wanted to go the duo route, you could even have each level have a different Pokemon that you could befriend that would have their own unique power to help you through that specific level. Now, in terms of story, objectives, and collectibles, I'm not 100% sure of that at this moment. I'm just being the ideas guy for the time being. But I don't think it'd be too hard to come up with all of that.
See, I can imagine a fun little game like Banjo, where Pikachu wears a Pidgeotto on his back and goes and does stupid stuff and little shenanigans and all that. But how about we go from something cutesy and fun to something horrific and spooky? I want to see a Pokemon spin-off game that's survival horror-like. Maybe it doesn't have to be a rated M game or anything like that, but it can still be scary. I'd say you should think about a game like Outlast, and how that doesn't involve you fighting back, and instead it's all about making sure that you get away from a demented creature that's chasing you, except in this case, it's a Pokemon. Maybe you're doing it in a mansion, that's pretty popular. This is a world where Pokemon are no longer tame, and nobody is really able to fight back against them. So the best you can do is run, even when it feels like there's just no escape. Imagine, if you will, running down the halls of an abandoned mansion, and a Kofagrigus is chasing you, trying to pull you in and make you disappear forever. The thriller aspect would be so cool, and scary stuff just hasn't had enough representation in Pokemon in general. They need to make it happen.
I think that would be really cool, honestly, and would be a great fit for Pokemon's aging audience. I just wonder how they'd be able to market it, considering Pokemon is a kids game after all. But hey, that's not our problem to figure out. Hey, I just realized that in my excitement about talking about the 3D platformer, it made me completely forget about yet another party-style game for the series, and one that makes the most sense out of all the ones we've talked about so far. Pokemon Stadium was a great game, but I think one of the best things about the game was actually the mini-games that were there. They were all silly little challenges, not too different from what you'd get out of a Mario Party game. So really, do I need to say more? A Mario Party-style Pokemon game would just absolutely crush. Fun boards based on familiar locations, loads of fun characters to choose from, and the return of taking a step back from battling and having fun with the Pokemon is not just something that needs to happen, but something that should be considered a crime that it hasn't already happened.
Well, hey, I was sitting here thinking my trivia game might be a big-time party starter, but you literally dropped the idea of Mario Party right on us. Just a series of minigames related to Pokemon. It might not be my entire cup of tea, but I think some people would just fall in love with the idea of messing around in little games using Pokemon. They've tried it in the main series of games before too, so it's bound to work out as a standalone project. So, I myself have one last idea for a spin-off game. Now, what's the most popular genre it seems nowadays? Why, that would be the Battle Royale genre. Whether it be in a style like Fortnite or Call of Duty Warzone, there's just so much love for Battle Royals right now. Imagine playing as a Pokemon like Machamp or Alakazam and you go around finding TMs of different tiers to get moves. Like how in Warzone, you open up boxes and you can find miscellaneous weapons and items. You can loot a range TM rank 3 from knocking out a rival and get a really good move applied to your character. Say you're playing as Machamp and you just loot a knocked out Alakazam. You'd end up getting that TM and learning Focus Blast or something like that. I think it'd be pretty fun to do it that way, but I can sense the collector might have a different thought.
So for me, I picture a Pokemon Battle Royale more going the route of having a trainer and finding different Pokemon-inhabited Pokeballs throughout the world, each of them having a much more powerful Pokemon depending on the kind of ball they're in. I feel like elimination would have to go the route of being forced into a battle because two opposing characters met eyes, and just hoping that the Pokemon you've collected, the health and battle items that you've acquired, and the skills that you possess would be what would get you through to that big victory royale. But now here's the last one I want to talk about, and man, it is a big one. Of course we have our main series RPGs, with brand new characters every time. But there's one human character in this franchise that has such relevance that it is simply bizarre he hasn't made any significant appearances in the video game side of things. Naturally, I am talking about Ash Ketchum, and to get straight to the point, why do we not have a Dragon Ball Z Kakarot style game based around Ash's adventures? I mean, technically his journey is still ongoing, whereas Goku's technically concluded. But I still think you could give this kind of game a proper cutoff, considering Ash became champion in Alola and then moved on to traveling around the world in Journeys, which is basically a soft reboot of the anime. So why not just do it like that? Start Ash off in Kanto and move him all the way through to Alola with all of his different companions, significant character arcs and battles, and just really give the fans who have been here since the very beginning a major treat. I mean, hey, some fans would be finally getting the Pokemon game they've always wanted, one with every region in it. Except for Galar and Paldea, but you know, whatever. Sure, it would be very limiting in a sense because you couldn't just catch whatever you wanted, and you would be playing out a set storyline that you couldn't really alter the outcome of, but that's okay. Kakarot has shown that you can do a lot of that with fun things on the side and really make an enjoyable and nostalgic experience. And I think this just might be the kind of game fans would love to see a few years from now with the 30th anniversary of Pokemon.
Wow. Once again, we went out here and did the Pokemon Company's job for them, creating new and interesting ideas for spin-offs in the franchise. While I still would be more than happy with them just deciding to make a new pinball game, please, I definitely believe any of what we suggested today would do very well in general, whether it be due to just the Pokemon branding or the strength of the gameplay.
You know, sometimes it really does get a little depressing coming up with ideas like these because there's no guarantee that any of these will ever come out. But I digress. I guess it's better to have dreamed and then lost than to never have dreamed at all. I mean, that's how the saying goes, right?
Speaking of dreaming, you know, I've been having some weird dreams lately. I see stuff, it's just bizarre. I mean, just talking about it right now, it makes my brain itchy. I should scratch it.
Oh, it's okay, buddy. You scratch that itch. It'll be okay soon. Just go to sleep.
Alright, I guess I will. I'm the Prime Directive.
And I'm Collector Dexter. And we'll all see you next time.